What's up, guys? It's Tim with Gutter Growth. I got Matthew D. Ryan on here. He owns about 4 businesses. One of them is Guttersmith, and he's also what we're here to talk about is Worry Free Bookkeeping. How's it
Hey, how
going?
you doing?
Good, man. How you doing today?
Good. Sorry to cut you off there.
So, for the guys that don't know much about you, you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you got going on?
Well, I like long walks on the beach, you know. Uh, I'm a 90s kid. I'm one of these people who's starting to feel old watching the social media. I'm like, what the hell?
Yep.
1992 is vintage now? What is even happening? Uh, no, so I owned a digital marketing agency for a dozen years. I did a lot of online marketing and lead generation for many companies, and I helped a lot of people grow. And while doing that, I observed that people had problems with, their back office, their administration, and a lot of them had trouble with tracking their money, where money was being spent, how much they had, what was their profit, keeping their books up to date. Tax time was always a nightmare. Trying to get finance to buy a house or even buy a truck or some equipment sometimes was always a nightmare. When I sold my digital marketing agency, just prior to selling it by a couple of years, I finally founded a bookkeeping company. And the purpose of that company was to help people to not have money really be a problem. I mean, you got to make money. Fine, that can be its own problem. And there's solutions like you with Gutter Growth for helping people do that. Then how to properly budget, how to really know what's going on with your finances without having to personally sit down and do all the little, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, doing this stuff, but to really know where everything stands. I wanted to build a company that could do that because I figured out how to do it with the marketing agency. And I figured out a template and a way to do it that would apply to anybody. I implemented it in 3 of my other companies. And finally, in a 4th, I probably spend, I don't know, like an hour personally a month in the finance area of my company. And all the bills are paid. We always have money on hand. We've never missed a payroll. We're profitable. We have a cushion. And a big part of it is because of Worry Free Bookkeeping. So I really I like helping people. I like seeing them grow. I like seeing them not have some of those problems. So that's Worry Free Bookkeeping in a nutshell, and kind of gives you an idea of how my mind thinks in a nutshell and kind of where I'm coming from, I think. Unless there's something else you want to know.
That's pretty cool. So, basically, for the guys that don't understand it completely, is it basically it's help automating it, the bookkeeping, or how is it going to help them?
Okay, so when I hear automate, I think of like a machine is doing it for you. But instead of a machine doing it for you, imagine you have a dedicated person who is going to track how much is coming in. And at set points, typically 2 times a month, they're going to tally up the total, and they're going to lay out all of your costs, all your operating costs, your overhead, what's going on, what you owe, materials, and so on. And they're going to be able to tell you, here's what you made in the last 2 weeks. Here's what's left over. And they're going to say to you, here's all the bills we're going to pay. Here's all the materials that are owed. Here's where everything is. Here's what's left over. And the only question you get asked is A, review that, make sure there's no major errors that you're seeing, because you'll know, if your material bill is 4 times what it should be, you're going to know. That doesn't happen, but you know.
Mhm.
And so you get asked, what do you want to do with the profit? And as an owner, you might need all of it that moment, or you might want to take half of it and set half of it aside for another machine or for a truck or for a rainy day or whatever. So everything gets done for you. So yes, it's automated, but there's a human involved making sure that it's done right, and making sure it's done right. So it's call it like human automation
So it's
from
not
the
like a
point of view.
machine could just kind of put something in the wrong area. You got someone actually
No,
on your business going through the numbers constantly.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. The most ideal setup would be, you'd have a bank account that all your money came into, and you'd actually have another bank account that all your materials set aside went into. And then you'd have another bank account for your all other overhead, and another one for your payroll and your payroll taxes, which really applies to anyone who has, 2 or more people working for them. And then you'd have a reserve account. So as an example, let's say we'll pick a number. Let's say a guy takes in $40,000, 40, takes in 40
Mhm.
grand from the 1st to the 15th of the month. Well, what's a percentage that you think of that is likely to be materials?
Probably, I don't know, 30%.
Perfect. So we take 30% of that 40 goes right in the materials account. Now we're going to have our overhead. The overhead is going to be fixed. It's going to be somewhere it's between 4 and 6,000 a month. I'm sorry, a period, between 8 and 12,000 in a month, probably. That's going to go into the overhead account. Then you're going to have your payroll. Well, if you're doing piecework, if you're doing by the foot, you know what the number is. You're going to move that over. But you're also going to know your workers' comp, your general liability, your percentage of payroll taxes. That's going to go in the payroll account too. So this money gets moved right into the accounts where it belongs. And those bills get paid from those accounts. But that money can't be lost. You can't get a surprise tax bill. You can't get a surprise material bill. It's right there. And you're going to have a remainder. On 40,000, what's that remainder going to be? It varies on the business, poorly managed, maybe $4,000, well managed, 8 to 12 grand, it depends on the profit margin, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that profit margin, you're going to say to the owner, okay, what do you want to do with this profit? We can pay it straight to you. You can put it in a reserve account. What do you want to do with it? Now, the owner, they know, they say, okay, here's how much came in. Everything's covered. Here's how much I actually have. What happens is, an owner who only periodically checks this stuff or does like bank balance accounting, if you have one bank account, all that money is going into one bank account. Guy opens up his phone, looks at it and goes, oh man, I got 80 grand. I'm like, no, you don't. You have like 8 to 20 grand. You don't have 80 because you got payroll, you got materials, you got that truck payment due. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we make it so the guy looks, he knows what he's really got, and he can invest in marketing comfortably, really knowing where he stands, and he doesn't get behind.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're actually breaking it down to where each account has this much money in it for this because you already know what it's going to cost.
Yep.
So it's kind of like, I feel like a lot of guys do that. Like they'll get like their account up to like 80, 90 grand. And so it's time to buy some machines.
Yeah. Yeah. And they'll spend all their profit, but then they'll still take their paycheck. So now they're technically negative 20. They don't really see it though, because as long as they keep selling some jobs, that cash flow of future jobs will hide that deficit. But then if they have a slow month, they'll be negative 20 quick. That's where it catches up to you. Loss can be hidden by growth. People don't always know that. You sell 80 grand, then you sell 100 grand. But if you are always growing, but the moment you shrink a little bit, if you're not running a profitable operation, that little bit of shrinkage, it's going to catch up to you. So we help prevent that and make sure that the business owner can always see, where's my money really at? How much do I really have? And everybody's always paid.
This podcast is sponsored by One Gutter Guard, the premium gutter guard that delivers the highest performance, quality, and value to your customers. From its different mesh filters to its unibody construction, One Gutter Guard can be the difference maker in your business. Are you interested in becoming part of the exclusive dealer network? Contact them today at onegutterguard.com or just give them a call. Now back to our show.
So how does it work with, say, if a company signs up with you, what do? They just turn in their bank statements to you once a month, or how does that work?
We like to get everybody set up on QuickBooks Online.
Okay.
And we have them sync their bank with QuickBooks Online. If they only have one bank account, we ask them to go start a few more. Mm-hmm. We'll get accounting access to those bank accounts, which is a special kind of access, right? All our workers are US based, they're W-2. We're not hiring anyone overseas for this kind of stuff. These are our trusted bookkeepers that we assign to these accounts. And we nickname the accounts: income account, overhead account, materials account, payroll account. And with that set up, and with QuickBooks Online set up, every time they make a purchase or have money come in, QuickBooks is going to see that. And we're going to be able to say, cool, that was sales, that was income, this was materials, this was payroll. So at that point, QuickBooks is keeping a record of everything that's happened, and it's keeping it in the present, like every week, just about, maybe twice a month for some people, daily for others, depending on what they feel they need. But at minimally once a month, they can pull a report and they'll know exactly where they stand, how much they sold that month, that year, up to that point, what their profit is, what they've spent on materials, what they've spent on payroll, all of it. So they have that. And then the bank syncs. We also like to help people with paying their bills. A lot of these bills can be automated. It shouldn't be that the business owner has to think, oh, on the 7th, I need to pay this car payment or this truck payment. On the 9th, I need to pay this. We like people to pay their bills twice a month. All that money, we're stocking it. We're moving it to overhead account, we're moving it to materials. It's growing. You've got a cushion. and money's coming in, you're going to pay your bills twice a month, but you're always going to have cash on hand. That makes you attractive when you need a loan, when you need to buy a machine, when you need to buy a house. You're always going to have money in your accounts.
Mm-hmm.
It's spoken for, but it's there.
Have you found that like maybe you signed someone up and then they realized, wait a second, I'm not even charging enough because my overhead's too much and I'm really not making any money?
Yes, we have a company. I can't say who it is, but and they're not in the gutter space because we have a company, and they're in a trade and they're doing 8 figures. And what you're asking, there's a word for it. It's called a unit economics.
Mm-hmm.
And for every, pretend it was water heaters, right? For every water heater you install plus your overhead, what's your profit margin? If you're upside down, you'd have bad unit economics. If you're good, you're gonna make money. So they basically weren't making money, and they couldn't see it because their growth was explosive. Over a 3-year period, they went from low 7 figures to 8 figures. So they're constantly have more cash coming in. But once we started breaking down what we call a financial planning dashboard, and their custom financial planning dashboard that showed like a funnel, like you have a lead funnel for marketing. We showed, here's the money in the top, here's the percentage for materials, here's the percentage for your commission salespeople, and we showed everything. They said, holy cow, to even make 20 grand, they had to sell like $400,000 a week.
A week.
To make 20 grand. And if they made less than 380, they were losing money. They didn't know, because they grew so fast, so focused on growth, that they didn't know they had bad unit economics. Now, luckily, once you know, you can solve it. That's a very extreme example, but you could break it down and say, yes, absolutely. We see that someone needs to raise their prices. Most people can raise their prices 10% immediately and not lose a single customer and make more money. And if you raise your top line 10%, you're making a lot more at the end of the day, because your overhead isn't changing.
It's not just the fact that your money's getting organized, but you'll actually know what your money is and what your profits are and what you're actually doing in the business. So you'll be able to make better decisions.
Yeah, and it's stress-free.
Worry free.
Tax time, stress-free. See, you got to file your taxes. The information's right there. Whether you're using TurboTax or whether you're big enough to use a CPA, the numbers have to be right. We make sure the numbers are right. I personally, it takes me an hour to do my taxes. 4 companies.
Wow.
Dude,
it's 4 companies.
So buttoned up. Now, other people put a lot of work in to make that happen, right?
Right.
The bookkeeper on each company, the CPA. Ultimately, though, okay, I'll tell you a dirty secret. I hate this stuff. I hate the accounting.
Yeah.
I hate it. I said, I don't want to do this. I had this marketing company. I'm constantly trying to keep track of who's paying invoices and bills and this. I said, man, there's got to be a better way. So I hired a bookkeeper. No good. Hired another bookkeeper. No good. Hired another bookkeeper. No good. I said, what is going on? Why can't anyone solve this for me? Talk to my CPA. He says, that's the bookkeeper's job. Bookkeeper says, that's the CPA's job. And I realized that no matter how big or small your company, profitability and revenue, which is like a chief financial officer job at a big company, managing the money, which is like your accounting, your accounts receivable, your accounts payable, and then taxes, which is like your CPA. These things have to get done, whether one person is doing it or whether you're really big and 5 people are doing it, but they still all have to be done. And the bookkeeper, most of them, they just want to categorize books. They just want to say, these were nails, this is material, this is a truck payment, this is a truck payment. They didn't necessarily want to go all the way into establishing a system, building out a system for a company. And I couldn't find anyone to build out a system for my, low 7-figure company. There wasn't a market. No one.
So they're more or less just naming transactions.
Most bookkeepers name transactions in books. Yeah, that's mostly what they do. They don't do budgeting. They don't provide it to you. Most CPAs, they can read a balance sheet, a profit and loss. They can read that stuff. But when, a gutter company owner says, hey, how much do I owe in taxes, or how much did I make last month? And a CPA says, well, check your profit and loss against your depreciation schedule. What the hell did you just say? How much did I make? Right? So we make it so you can just see like, yo, this is what you made. The CPA is still getting what they want. They're still going to do your taxes, or TurboTaxes is still going to do your taxes, but breaking it down so you can see what you really made. We strongly recommend all trades have a line of credit or have net 30 with their supplier, and getting to that point where you can have that, because as the money comes in, we're going to set 30% aside. But ideally, let's say materials, ideally that's growing in the account for the whole month. And then you pay your supplier bill. You'll probably have some left over, because if you're really good, it's really like 26, 27%, right? So cool, you have something left over. Or it's a credit card you're paying. You use the credit card with the supplier, then you get the points. You get
So
free
you find a
miles,
projection, like you think it's going to be about 30% based on history, and then you try to save money if you can throughout the month.
and then you pay the bills. Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the time you're paying, like if you're going to pay this month's bills at the end of the month, that money is growing, and you pay it, but you already now have money. I'm usually like a 2 to 4 weeks ahead is what ends up happening. I have money in my account, but I have a bill coming up in 3 weeks that all that money needs to pay. But then the bill the following period, the money is also growing. So then suddenly it drops when I pay the bill, but it never drops to zero, right? It goes like this, kind of goes like that. And so the money always looks good, man. I can get approved to buy a machine. You know what I mean? It's a good thing.
Do you, like at the end of the year, do you have them reallocate the money, or do you suggest it for some people, like there's a surplus?
That's a really good question. So with our system, what we find is people accidentally will set aside too much money. And the problem becomes not, I have no money, but what do I do with the extra money? Sometimes the extra money is just in the thousands. Sometimes it's in the tens of thousands, right? But it does happen. And it's a good thing, because if your materials were 30% throughout the year, but you really spent 27%, well, I'll tell you, December is slow. So that means maybe you're not laying guys off, or maybe you're doing a Christmas bonus. Maybe you're putting extra money towards a piece of equipment right before the year ends. We recommend first week of December, start your taxes or meet with your CPA, look at what's in the accounts, look at every bill you can pay, what's going to be left over. Either take it as profit, you'll pay taxes on what you take as profit. That's how that works. Or invest it in something that you know you were going to buy in January or February of next year anyway. You can order some material, to not pay taxes on that.
I like that you
happen.
mentioned that in December. So it's better to kind of know your numbers earlier, so that way you could spend it before the fiscal year ends.
Yeah, if you have like 20 grand sitting in a payroll account, which can happen for people who have, 4 crews or 2 crews, whatever, right? Money sits in there. You'll be taxed on it. So ideally you want to pay that before midnight on December 31st. You want to get that paid. And we're not CPAs, we're not accountants. We handle accounting, and we will make your CPA not think that you're a problem client and actually take your call. I don't know about you, but CPAs can be hard to reach. When you're trying to set stuff up. This is the thing. I work with a lot of them. It's a thing. They're all overwhelmed. We make it easy for them to look at your books and say, okay, this is what you really owe, and to make sure you're not overpaying either.
So you're taking away a lot of the work for the CPA.
Yeah, CPAs don't like doing books. They don't want to categorize stuff. They want you to give them everything, and they can make good decisions on taxes. Yeah. We do predictable monthly pricing. So we look at the size of the company, we give you a set price, and you're locked in for that price. If we determine that your volume's growing or your needs are greater than what we've quoted, we'll give you a 3-month window and let you know, like in a few months, your rate's going to go up a couple $100 a month. Gosh, if someone adds $500,000 a year in sales,
a lot more work,
really blowing it up, it's more work. And if we say, listen, we need to charge you another $300 a month, I mean, on $500,000, who's not going to pay that to continue having it going good? We're not here to take anybody. We're just want to keep everybody working well.
This good accounting might have helped them get that extra $500,000, right?
Every time, man. If they're working with you on the systems and the marketing, and then they're keeping their back office in terms of their CRM, their jobs, how they're handling their scheduling, and then they're managing their money well, they're going to grow. And if they do that consistently, someone else who's not doing one of those pieces, whether it's the accounting or the marketing or a growth consultant like yourself, they're going to go out of business at some point in the next 24 months, because most people are one catastrophe away from going under. One broken leg, one really bad hurricane, one house fire, one car accident. You know what I'm saying? So by having these things in, you're not one emergency away from going out of business.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
You got a moat. I'm a big fan of building a moat. And we're in Florida, so I put gators in the moat.
I know a lot of the bookkeepers, they do it quarterly. So this way it's like happening in real time, and you actually have your information a lot faster. So say if someone wanted to like buy a house or something, um, what would that look like?
Usually when you want to buy a house, you're a business owner and the company's passing the money through to you, the bank wants to see 2 years of your records. And instead of, emailing your bookkeeper and saying, hey, I need you to get everything caught up, and then waiting a week or two, you email us and we'll get it over to you fast. The last request we had took 1 hour. We got them everything they needed within an hour, and they applied and were approved. And they had their same day, they had their pre-approval letter that enabled them to work with a real estate agent to put offers in on a house. Before having us, a couple years prior, they'd also bought a house, and it was a 2-week nightmare just to get everything they needed together so they could even start looking. And they lost the house they really wanted because of it.
Because it took too much time.
Yeah. So if you could just imagine, knowing your bills are paid, knowing you're not overpaying, and you actually see it. I mean, we build a custom spreadsheet, but it looks like a funnel. Here's what came in, here's your fixed costs, here's your materials, here's your payroll, and it shows you the number at the bottom. You're seeing where the money's going, and then the bills are paid. A lot of it's automated. I mean, you like the part of it that's automated. You're telling me you're not going to automate your internet bill?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to, you're not going to automate like your car payment. A lot of that's going to be automated. If you're not up to the point of having that automated, we're probably not a good fit. But
Mm-hmm.
these ideas are still a good fit, so you can get yourself up to that point.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's the less you got to think about in business, the more productive you're going to be.
Absolutely.
Because if you're spending 5 hours a month on chasing money or doing this or that, and
Yeah.
you could just be focusing on business, bringing a new business. So I think that's definitely a good thing to streamline all that.
Yeah, anything that helps customers pay right away, and then make sure that you've got money to pay all your bills. We like having a credit card, and the bills go on the credit card, and the money to pay the credit card sits in the account until the credit card payment is due. And so we end up with like 30 days of money sitting in the bank account at any given time. Now, if 30 days of money was sitting in one bank account at any given time, an owner would say, God, look how much money I have, which we don't want, because then they're going to go out and buy some
stuff.
Maybe they call that bank balance accounting, where you just look at the bank balance, you think it's
I got enough money.
Yeah, then you get a big tax bill or something, right? It takes you out. But having that cushion, really seeing what you have to work with, super, super valuable.
And then it can help them track other like KPIs and stuff, right? Like what they're spending on marketing or what leads are costing them.
Absolutely. Sometimes people think they're spending way more or way less than they really are. And it can give them insights. So for example, one of our vehicles is older and it's over 100,000 miles. And not in my bookkeeping company, but in the gutter company we have. And I've noticed that, it's gone in the shop more than the newer vehicle. And I can see and look, what is my trailer repair expense really? Because trailers need repairs and maintenance. They need tires, axles, brake. What? Not really axles, but the those leaves, like the stuff breaks, man.
Yep.
So what is my trailer repair expense really, and how do I budget for that? If I'm budgeting for it and it doesn't break, I've got extra money. If I set aside for it and it breaks, I've got how much money I thought I would have. But if I don't think with that and it breaks, I've got less money than I thought I would have. And
so do you have like a maintenance account to where you could figure out your maintenance and then allocate so much money to that account?
Office supplies, small tools, extras, material, vehicles, trailers, machine repair, advertising and marketing, consulting, bookkeeping, your CPA, any professional fees, insurance, payroll. You can break it all down and see what's going on. And let's talk about this. If two guys who are in an adjacent area, they're both being coached by you, but they don't really compete.
Right.
They decide to join up. Maybe one buys out the other. That transaction can happen way faster when the books are up to date. Or someone else comes in and wants to buy your company. Everything you need in terms of what's really being made, it's all right there. You don't have to like stop working to sell your company. You can really see what's going on and how much you're making and whether or not you can sell. It's all up to date.
Yeah, you don't have to wait for the P&Ls to come and a week process and
All yeah.
speed, things that speed up and make business go smoother. Like sometimes time kills a deal.
It's why I take credit cards. You know, the average time to get paid really matters. And if you're waiting 7 days, 14 days, 28 days instead of 2 to 4 days, you know, I'll spend that 2% for the velocity, for the speed.
What I started doing with my CRM, because I use Jobber, I
Yeah.
started just taking a deposit and storing the credit card on file. And then as soon as I'm done, I send them the invoice and collect the money right then and there. Now I don't have to have my admin spending 5 hours a week just making calls, trying to get people to answer the phone just to take it.
100%.
It just like speeds it up.
Did you ask them, did you take the deposit and then say this same card will be used when the job is done and you did it automatically, or they still said, hey, thanks so much, and they hit the pay button, but the card was stored?
I used it for the Christmas lights business last year, and
Okay.
it seems like people are pretty much already warmed up to it. They already know that like this is a thing that
Yeah.
people do. So it's not like I really had that conversation with anyone,
On
but
Christmas lights, I can see that too.
people just kind of like
Yeah.
expected it. And
Yeah.
I think it's getting to be where they're starting to expect that because more people are using this type of software.
Yeah. We do it too. We on the gutter side, we definitely use that. It definitely helps with the accounting, and you know, we've never missed a payroll because our time to collect is really short because we use the CRM in that way. To your point, I realized that the amount of money I could spend on somebody to follow up and get checks is more than the credit card processing fee to accept the credit card. And I said, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. As my mom used to say, that was her favorite saying. My wife hates it, but 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I said, this is the same thing, except, you know, one less. Okay, cool. Let's just do it this way. Yeah. We still have an office person. Your advice helped with that. You know, said before I'd hire this person, I'd get an office person to answer those phones, do this. I said, he's right. So we did that, and it definitely was a key move. You know, you're definitely very good at identifying going like this with 2 steps sometimes to make sure someone grows correctly. You've been
I
through
mean,
it.
that's what worked for me. That was the first thing that started having me grow, is getting that office person in place, and
Yeah,
just
I could see it.
just a couple phone calls that you're gonna miss, that you're not gonna
Yeah.
miss anymore, pays for it. Then you
Oh
get
yeah.
organized.
We had our office person doing some follow-ups during a slow period. Someone who got a quote at the end of 2022, but dropped $3,000 on gutters out of the blue because of a follow-up call. I mean, you know, they do
They
pay
just
for
put it on the
themselves.
back burner probably, and then
Yeah.
you had that person right in place.
It covers it. What else on Worry Free Bookkeeping do you think would be valuable for the people who follow your podcast and watch it that I could share, if anything?
Well,
What?
how can they reach out to you? What would be like, you know, I'd venture to say almost everybody needs this. You
Right.
know, like you said, you got companies from 400,000 to, I don't know, you said 8 figures.
Oh yeah.
So pretty much there's not any company that doesn't need this. So if a gutter company realizes that, and how would they reach out to you
They
to
can
find
go
out
to
more?
Yeah, we'll do a free consult, talk with them. Sometimes people have their books a year out of date, and so we have to catch it up. So we'll charge a separate fee to catch it up, and then we'll do a set monthly fee to keep everything how it is going forward and help them get on to that worry-free method of managing their finance. But if they go to worryfreebookkeeping.com, it's BOOKKEE, right? Bookkeeping. It's 2 Ks in there, which kind of even throws me off when I own the company. But worryfreebookkeeping.com, they can request a free consult. Julia, who is the CEO and runs the day-to-day of that company, she'll reach out. She'll take a look at the books personally, and she'll say, okay, this is where this stands. This is what it will take for us to deliver. And she'll give them a quote. This is the price, and we can do this for you. It'll be a flat monthly rate.
I think it's a no-brainer. My opinion on it is Most of the problems, like when people come to me trying to grow their business, most of the problems are they don't know their numbers. And it could, I
Yes.
mean, that's like the biggest problem. Even when they're coming to me, I have no leads. But for me to show them how to get the leads, I kind of have to show them how much leads cost them, how
Yep.
many leads it's taken for them to close a job, and how much that job's actually costing them.
That's
And
right.
then knowing what their average job price is. And it's like, okay, you know it's costing you $200 to get a job, but your average job is $2,500. Why are we not spending more $200 on the advertising that's working? So
100%.
I think it's a no-brainer. I think that everyone should do it. Um, you have to kind of know your numbers to make these decisions that are going to help you grow your business. And it's not just the bookkeeping. I mean, it's actually how you're going to grow your business on getting more leads and how you can make decisions on when I need another truck and who to hire. So I think
Right.
it's
Right.
knowing the numbers is like the starting point. Like that's where everybody could kind of start to know their business.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I mean, I am biased on people needing it, but no matter who they have do it, they need to do it. And ideally, it's done in such a way that those numbers are presented to them a couple times a month and they say, approved, pay all those bills, do those transfers, put that money in my account. Let me go sell some more. Let me get some more marketing. Let me keep going and keep it really simple on that. And then you're able to review those numbers from your coaching and consulting side on gutter growth. You're right. It's a good mix.
So, and obviously you use it in your gutter business.
100%. 100%. It's every 2 weeks, I get a full report and I'm asked to decide what to do with the profit. But how about this? What about when you have a period, which happens even to me? I'll have a period where someone doesn't pay a big check. And that job, you get a 1 week job, and their check doesn't come till the 18th.
Mhm.
Now, the way I handle it, the 1st to the 15th is a period, and the 16th to the end of the month is a period. I refer to it as a period.
Okay.
All the money that comes in from the 1st to the 15th, that's what is available to pay the bills for the 1st to the 15th. Sometimes I have a deficit. I'm under by $4,000.
Right.
Why? Because this $20,000 check isn't arriving until the 20th of the following period. That means I'm going to have a big surplus. I'm going to have a bunch left over. So now I get asked as the owner, what are we going to do with this negative 4,000? So here's what I do. Take the negative 4,000 out of our reserves, and next period, we're going to put the 4,000 back. Comes out, everything gets paid. Next period, 16th to end of month, that big check comes, plus everything from that period. There's a profit, $4,000 goes in reserves, and here's how much I really have. Being able to do that instead of saying, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay the bills? I'm negative 4,000. I got to ask the guys if that, you get what I'm saying? It's a big deal.
What's a good percentage for the guys to put into the reserves account? Is there like a formula that you usually allocate so much of the job cost to the reserves, or is that just going to depend on the company?
It really does depend on the company, how big they are, what their goals are. Are they trying to buy a machine? Or are they just setting aside for a rainy day? Some people will tell you 6 months. That's a lot. What I like to do is I take each one of my categories. So payroll, expense, and reserves. I don't really do materials because that money is always there, but those other three. And I say, what do we need to cover a full period of our expenses? What do we need to cover a full period of our payroll? And I make sure that there's a full period in there. Then I have a full period of reserves in the reserves. So if it's like 10 grand, 10 grand, and 10 grand, technically I have 30 grand sitting there, but only 10 of it's in reserves. And that's where then
Right.
at the end of the month, or the end of the year, you can do that allocation. So instead of having 0, 0, and 30, I do like 10, 10, and 10, and then I can pull it if I need to. And so you end up kind of hiding money from yourself. You end up with a little cushion here, a little cushion here, fat cushion here, and you just don't have money problems. The only money problem I want my customers to have who use Worry Free Bookkeeping is, yeah, we misallocated. There's an extra 3,000 in this account. What do we do with it? And I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. It happens. It happens all the time. It happens to me. It happens with the antique mall. It happens with the gutter company. It happens with all of our customers. The problem they have is allocating it, but they don't unless they stop selling or they skimp on quality or they're not spending money on marketing and they don't have that growth mindset. As long as they're doing that, and they follow that system that I lay out. It's a very transparent system. You see Here's what we're going to do with it. It's done. You look in QuickBooks, you can see that it's done. It lines up. You know, as long as you follow that, you're not going to be one of these people that get into that situation. Now, enough deficits, negative 4,000, negative 4,000, negative 4,000. Okay, that'd be 6 weeks. That's 3 periods. Yeah, eventually you're going to run out of money. That's a long time not to make a change. That's a long time not to realize.
So
oh,
you're
man,
kind of able to foresee things better by knowing your numbers, and you can make those changes because you
Yeah.
see the problem coming because you actually know what's
Yep.
going on.
I've had it happen. We started, I don't want to give away too much. We had a new service that we started offering, and the number of our leads went way up. Overall leads. I said, oh, this is looking great. Leads went up. But our most important lead, our most profitable type of lead actually went down. And our least profitable type of lead went up. And had I just looked at the numbers, I just would have seen leads are way up. Because I had it broke down, I went, oh, it looks like it's going good, but that most profitable lead, that's down. So knowing your numbers is so important. You know, for the guy that's in the day-to-day, everyday hanging gutter himself, who has a gutter company, you've got to have good people doing this stuff for you who can provide it. And ideally, they're giving you high-level information so you can make decisions. That's what we want to do on the finance side. I believe that's what you and even your partner, John, over at Pipeline do on, you know, Mr. Pipeline, when he's providing those numbers. It's high-level decisions across the board.
No, I totally agree. Earlier when we were talking, what was it? You told me, we were talking about leads, and you told me how you figured out the low quality leads. You had so many of them. Yeah, because you want to go over that a little bit again?
So, like, which part? I know I went through it fast. I'm a fast talker. I got to slow
Yeah.
down.
So
Listen
you were
to this
talking
at
about
half speed or
the Angie
0.75.
leads, how you had a ton of Angie
Oh,
leads, and then, you know, you
yeah,
had these other leads that were better, but you weren't getting as many of them. And you realized that you needed to cut the Angie leads because they're trash.
sure. So, different markets will get different results from different marketing platforms. For example, in Southern California, people use Yelp to find HVAC contractors. They don't do
Interesting.
that here. They don't do that here.
No.
I'm telling you, they do it in Southern California, big time. They don't do it here. So depending on what market you're in, one platform you can use, Angie, Yelp, House, Google, whatever, might be, or Thumbtack, might be more successful than another. And I believe in putting money in different buckets, advertising wise, not only being in one place, but being in several places, monitoring what's working, giving more to what works and less to what doesn't. Well, that's all you do. We were getting a lot of quantity of leads from Angie, and it was making that phone ring. But then we'd call back, we would go to set up an estimate, and the number of people who would let us do an estimate on, let's say, you know, it was 20 calls, you might be doing 5 estimates.
Right.
20 calls. It was really weird because, oh, I already got somebody, or, oh, it was a spam lead. I think Angie spam has been a big deal for a long time. Current CEO has been emailing people. Current CEO of Angie has been emailing people about how they're fixing the bots and whatever. It's not in our heads. It's real. Of those 5, you get like 2 that would close. We had other marketing channels because I was following my numbers. If we got 20 leads, we'd get 20 estimates.
Right.
And you coach people, their close rate should be somewhere between 4 and 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
And depending on their pricing, if they're getting 100%, they're too cheap. If they're getting, you know, less than 40%, they're probably too expensive, or something like this. And this is generally true. So I shifted the budget. I said, this $900, which is all we were spending on Angie at the time to get a bunch of leads, this $900 over there, we're going to move this to some other areas that we know we're getting quality. Here's what was scary though. For a few days, that phone did not ring as much.
Right.
You know, you go from a lot of calls a day to like half as many calls.
Starting to panic.
Yeah, you're like, oh man, my phone's not ringing. But the amount of estimates and the amount of you know, closed jobs we were getting by really looking at everywhere that we were doing work and figuring out everything that worked. You tell people to do yard signs a lot. If you do yard signs, you know, you track how many people called you and said yard sign, probably more than Angie's,
Yep.
you know, and you say, cool, I'm closing jobs there. And you can figure out where to put money without the guesswork. There's too much emotion in this kind of stuff. I don't feel like that works. Who cares? What's
Here's how
working?
you feel. What's the
Let,
numbers?
yeah, like how does more money feel? Right? Like it feels good. So not to like sound like a jerk or something, right? But like ultimately, I don't care how I feel.
Right.
And I don't care how the other guy feels on this topic. Whatever works, works. If we can both see it, great.
And you tracking this stuff, you're able to make those decisions.
Yeah.
I
I
like
mean,
it.
I learned the importance of that, but I learned the importance of not trying to do it all yourself. You know, you can't do all the marketing that someone could pay Mr. Pipeline to do and hang gutter and answer the phones. And, you know, you do have to delegate, and it is hard for people to do that. There are jumps that people are going to make where there's like jumping from one cliff to another, one rooftop to another. And they're looking down and they go, man, if I fall down there, I'm dying or breaking my ankles, breaking a leg. These jumps exist where it's a little uncomfortable, like paying someone else to do something that you've always done.
I
You know,
call
but
it the
oof,
technician mindset is what I like to call it.
yeah,
They get
okay,
stuck in having to do everything themselves and
yeah.
they're afraid
You
to
know,
relinquish any power.
it's every business. You know, having had that marketing company I had for a long time, it's IT companies, it's consultants, it's chiropractors,
They all get into thinking I'm the
dentists.
only one that could do it.
Yeah, and you know, if somebody can do something 80% as good as me and present me the finished product and I can tweak 20% of it and help get it right and coach them over time, even that number is high. Some people say 65%, but if someone can do something pretty good, and you can coach them over time and figure out a way to make a process out of it, you're gonna have a lot more headspace. I think people lose a lot of mental energy on finance and on money and on paying bills and on where does this stand and I've got to do this. And if that's out of here, you're probably going to sell a lot more. You're going to
No, I
focus on
agree.
growth, or you'll just actually be with your kids when you're being with your kids. I don't know about you, but sometimes the work stress things happen and
Well,
you're
that whole
you're not
element,
present,
yeah,
you
that
know?
whole element, if you got money
Yeah,
problems and money stress, that's going to take your mind away from your family. You know, so having
100%.
all this stuff in place, I could see how that could help even your home life balance.
It's such a big deal for me personally. I have 4 kids. So to
Me
be,
too.
yeah, okay. So to be very, like when I'm there, I want to be there. You do have to provide so you can be there. But to the degree you can get ahead of some of these things, whether it's money or whether it's an emergency, it's really important to do that. You know, on the gutter company, we hang gutter 5 days a week, not 7. I
Yep.
want these guys to see their families on the weekend. I want to force it if I have to, you know, hey,
Yep.
or if they don't have families and they want one, I want them to have time to go on a date. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, let's have that figured out. You know, we might grow a little slower because of it. Maybe there's probably competitors in town hanging gutter on Saturday and Sunday. It's probably happens. I don't want these guys getting burnt out. You got to take care of your people.
And they do. When you work these guys 6, 7 days a week,
Yeah.
they got like a 2 year period.
Yeah.
Then you're going through the process of training someone else because they got burnt out, went somewhere else, or got
Okay.
tired of gutters. And
Do you see them switch industries or do they just go work somewhere else?
I've seen both.
Okay.
You know, I've seen both. I've seen them like burn out and then fall off for a couple weeks, and then they end up back at another gutter company, but they needed that break. And it's like I read something about it. It's like a 2 year. There's something at the 2 year mark that will burn people out, like right at the 2 year mark. They could do it for so long. Can't remember
I
where.
didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay. You read a lot, huh?
I do. Yep.
Yeah. I tell my kids, all the smartest people I know read a lot.
Yep.
And my kid said, that's cool, but I just won Victory Royale in Fortnite. No, my 10-year-old. I was like, okay, bro, listen, you are really good at Fortnite. You need to read a book.
Yeah, read about it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do 50 books a year, but it's kind of a stretch, but I'm able to do it. I'm doing pretty good with the audibles.
Oh
Or
yeah. Do you put it on like 1.25 or 1.5, or do you just listen to it at 1.0 speed?
just regular speed.
Okay.
but maybe I might do that you mentioned that. But I also like to read the physical book and listen to the audio at the same time because I feel like I'm learning two ways, but it's keeping me on pace. Or if I get distracted and my phone goes off, I'm still hearing it and I can pick back up
Yeah.
on the book. So
I struggle with the auditory learning.
Mm-hmm.
I am more of a read it and even make examples if it's a key concept, but I'm more of a, I read it and it sticks.
Yeah.
I've noticed even with some of my favorite movies that when I go and watch it a second time, I'm like, what? Like there's dialogue I miss. So I'm more of a, if I read it, I don't miss it. If I hear it, I'm going to get half of it the first time through, but I'm going to think I got 100%. And then I'm going to get humbled when I hear it the second time or watch it the second time. That happened with, I saw Dune 2 recently, and my son wanted to watch Dune 1 and said, will you take me to see Dune 2? So I started watching Dune 1 after I saw Dune 2. And there's so much foreshadowing and there's so much stuff they talk about that all happens in the second movie. And I totally missed it the first time. I love the movie. I thought I got it all. That happens to me if I do Audible. So I think every person's different and you got to find what works for you, know it works for you and do it. Just execute.
I find like if I'm driving, then I could focus on it. But if I'm like doing stuff, I got to do both.
Yeah, a lot of people are like you. They can do that. I got a friend who can do that.
Yeah.
Always listening to the podcast or the audiobook. Yeah, I just got to do music in the car. I can't do.
I think whatever you do, whether you're reading it or watching it, it's always good to go back a second time because you're going to pick up those little things that you missed the first time. And
something that not enough people admit on the business book side of nonfiction, most of the content of a book is going to be in the first 5 chapters.
It's true.
And after that, on a 20 chapter book, it's like 15 chapters reiterating those same points.
Just pounding it in your brain.
Some people really need it. And some people, they see the high level and how it can apply to them and what they're going to change. And if they actually do go implement and they can take those high level concepts and use them, I don't know that they need the other 15 chapters on a business book, especially when you're reading 10, 15 business books, 20 business books over the course of 5 years or something. If you're picking out, the most important bits and you're able to use it. The only problem is if you think you're doing that, but really you're being a dilettante and not executing and not getting the point. But to have that sounding board, you need a TIM or a gutter growth, where some people have a spouse or a business coach or a business partner who can help calibrate. But yeah.
Even some of the summary books are pretty good. You can read a summary book and get, if you could get the basics out of it and apply it.
Agreed.
It's good.
Yeah, agreed. Big time.
So well, I'm glad I had you on here, man. I think this was pretty informative for everybody. It just goes back to what I'm always saying, know your numbers.
You do say that a lot, actually.
I do.
I see it on your posts, yeah.
I'm definitely not a numbers guy. I don't want to be the one doing all that, but I know that you need to know it. And I'm also big on hiring out your weaknesses. So if books are your weaknesses, which I'm sure it is for 99% of everybody, because we're running businesses, then it's something you should definitely do. I'm gonna
set aside 2 hours to do my bookkeeping, and someone calls you and wants you to go do an estimate on a 3-story mansion. What are you gonna do? Estimate every time.
Every time.
I'll do it every time. So just having that done no matter what happens is a really empowering thing, to your point.
So if there's finishing up here, if there's one piece of advice that you'd want to give gutter guys, what would that one thing be? Like whatever sticks out the most.
I think you actually hit it just a second ago, which is know your numbers. But to know your numbers, automate knowing your numbers. Make it so that the high level information's being provided to you so you can make decisions about the future, and you're in the present deciding about the future, not so much in the present deciding about the past. Not what bill am I going to pay that was due a week ago, but what bill am I paying that's due in a week?
It's coming up.
Yeah, know your numbers and automate the information so you're getting high level numbers and you're saying, do this, do this, do this. Don't pay that bill yet. That guy didn't actually finish the job. Do this, do this. It'll save up a lot of headspace. I like the know your numbers as the big call to action. And if you want to talk to a bookkeeper and see about having us do some work, worryfreebookkeeping.com. Just go there and fill the form out. I'm sure if we see any gutter companies come along, we're going to assume this is what it was from, but you can ask for
Absolutely.
Julia. You can mention my name if you want to. Julia's fantastic. She's taken, everybody, not by me, but she's taken. And a lot of the guys, they'll go, whoa, she's great. She's fantastic. Super smart, super savvy, cute as hell. She's awesome. So everyone be kind.
Good deal. And I'll drop a link in the podcast when I post everything. So that way they could go straight to you.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate you.
I appreciate it, Matthew. You have a good day.
You too.
Talk soon, man.
See ya.